go ahead and create an Azure virtual network using the Azure portal. So I've got a resource group that I created, just a simple resource group, nothing special. We're going to add now a new virtual network. So we'll go to the marketplace, we'll type virtual network. So there's a few options to list, virtual network gateway, and so on. We'll be taking a look at these other objects throughout the duration of this course. So we'll hit virtual network and go ahead and click create. Under name, we'll give it a name, and this can be any name as long as it's unique within your resource group. So I've just named this one vNet1. We've now got to choose our address space. Now this is going to be any valid address space. Bear in mind that the vNet address space is meant to encompass all the subnets within the virtual network. So when you're creating this, you've got to plan a little bit in advance. It's very difficult to come in after the fact if you've deployed a lot of things and change your virtual network address space. So you've got to think about this up front to make sure that when you choose your address space, you're choosing something that's going to be scalable long term. And it's always a pretty safe bet to just choose something fairly big. You'll notice the default is only a kind of a Class C scoped subnet. So only an 8 bits available for the host IPs, which really limits what you can do to only about 250 IP addresses or thereabouts. I make a habit of making this a fairly large address space, something like the entire 10 address space. So 10.0.0.0/8. I'm going to use my existing resource group. And we'll choose networking. Now, it's also worth pointing out that I have a number of other virtual networks that are available. And we've got to take a little bit of care because I've actually picked an address space that overlaps an existing virtual network. So again, across all the vNets that you have within your subscription, you've got to make sure that you don't have any conflicts. So we're just going to adjust this one to 11. I had forgotten that I had already deployed that one. And that warning should now go away. And so that's now a valid virtual network address space. So we have use existing resource group location. And then a virtual network requires at minimum a subnet. So again, we can name the subnet anything we want. I'm just going to call this one cloud network, just to represent the all-encompassing subnet of all the resources on my cloud. I can certainly have more than one subnet. We'll see that here in a little bit. And I need to choose the subnet that I want. And you know, there's a lot of theories and practices on this. My personal practice is I'll take the subnet 1 octet further in. So this is going to be 11.1, and I'll make this a /16. And so this gives me the availability to have a fairly large subnet in the order of 65,000 addresses. We're not going to enable service endpoints at this time. This enables us to put additional rules around what is allowed to access this subnet. Now we're going to do all that using network security groups. We'll click create and it'll go create this virtual network. And so this will take just a second. And we'll see the virtual network appear in our resource group. So let's refresh our view, and here's our new virtual network. Take a look at some of the properties. We have the address space. We have devices that are currently connected. Right now there are none. So that of course says there are no devices connected. We have the subnets, and this is where we come in and actually modify our subnets. So we can add additional subnets, we can delete subnets, and just make additional modifications from there. You'll notice we can also add a gateway subnet. This is a topic that's going to come up a little later on. We have our DNS servers. So this is where our DNS configuration is going to come from. So again, the default is that Azure provides DNS capability, but if we want to use a custom DNS, such as, for example, let's say I deploy a server on this subnet with a domain control or with a DNS server in it, and that server is 11.1.10.100, then it will actually, within this subnet, As the IP addresses are allocated out to virtual machines and other relevant resources, it'll include this DNS server as the DNS server that is configured. So this is if you want to do your own DNS server. So we'll just go with the default. We have the option to do peerings, which is a tool for connecting multiple vNets together. We have our service endpoints, which we've not chosen to enable. Some additional properties such as the name, the resource ID, the location, and then the automation script to let us replay or rebuild this using either PowerShell, ARM, or any one of the other supported languages. So that's it. That's how we go in and create an initial virtual network.